Hello, my name is Keith, and these are my stamps. Today, episode 10, Algeria. We are in North Africa. Algeria is the 10th largest country in the world, about 2,300,000 kilometers square, which is 919,000 square miles, which is about the size of Alaska and Texas combined. It has a population of 47.4 million, which is similar, a little less than Spain, which, as you can see to the north, is a lot smaller. Algeria is bordered to the north by the Mediterranean Sea, and then by Tunisia, Libya, Niger, Mali, Mauritania, and Morocco. It gets its name from the capital city Algiers, which you can see on the coast in the north, although that doesn't help very much. The name Algiers comes from the Arabic word for islands, as there are 4 small islands off the coast where Algiers is. Algeria has 4 main geographical regions running across the country east to west. The most northerly of them is called the Tell, which is the coastline, and the hilly subcoastal zone behind it, which is around where 90% of the population live. The next zone are the Tell Atlas Mountains, where you can see on the map here the city of Tiaret, that's in the Tell Atlas Mountains. A little further to the south, you can see the city of Jelfa, and this is in the Saharan Atlas Mountains. That's the third line or section running across the country. And then the final section is the largest, is the Sahara Desert itself, which is pretty much most of the country. Most of the geography and history information I took from official Algerian websites, government websites. So on to the history. From around about 1250 BC, the area was settled by Carthaginians, who I didn't realize were also called Punic or Phoenicians. I had heard of the Punic Wars and I had heard of Carthaginians, but didn't realize they were talking about the same thing. The Punic Wars were with the Romans, and they lasted from 264 BC for roughly 200 years before the area became a Roman province in 46 BC. This lasted for roughly 500 years before an invasion by Vandals in 429 AD, followed by a Byzantine conquest in 533 AD and an Arab conquest in 647. There were various dynasties then until the Ottoman period began in 1518. In the late 1600s, there were French and British attacks that the Ottomans repelled, until in 1830 the area was colonized by France. In the late 1800s and the early 1900s, there were revolts against the French, and these continued on and off until 1954, when the Algerian Revolution began. A provisional government was created in 1958, and independence was finally declared in 1962. There was a civil war between 1991 and 2002. However, that wasn't specifically mentioned on the government website. Algeria now is a fully independent republic. Its stamp issuing history, it began by using French stamps from 1849. From 1924, the French stamps were overprinted with French for Algeria. This also happened just after World War II. Between them, there were stamps inscribed Algerie, Algeria in French, plus either an RF or the full République Française. In 1962, with independence, the first set of stamps were French stamps overprinted with EA, and then later in that same year, 1962, stamps inscribed République Algérienne in both French and Arabic were issued. The currency followed the same, French followed by Algerian. In 1924, it was the French currency 100 centimes, making 1 franc. And from 1964, 100 centimes made 1 dinar. Dinar, which is the currency of several countries, it comes from the Roman denarius. So I seem to have gone a bit overboard with the number of stamps that I have chosen to represent Algeria. Anyhow, these are the first ones from the first set of stamps released with the overprint Algérie on them in 1924. And there are some of the same types as we saw in the episode about Alexandria Port Said. The first two in the top row, the Blanc type, and the second one in the second row, the Merson type. The other two stamps here are also from well-known French series. However, neither are named for their designer. The first one is called the Sower, which was released from 1903 to 1941, and the blue one in the bottom line is Pasteur, named because it's a picture or a bust of Louis Pasteur, and that was issued from 1923 to 1937. As I say, however, all of these were 1924 in Algeria. These ones are all inscribed with Algeria or Algérie rather than being overprinted. These were from the 1926 Algiers series, and they've all got RF or République Française on them. The top row shows a street in the Kasbah, the second row, the Mosque of Sidi Abdelrahman, the third row, the Pêcherie Grande Mosque, and the fourth row, the Bay of Algiers. You'll note in the first row on the right and the second row, second stamp, there are two pre-cancelled stamps. This was a process that was often used by companies or mass mailers to save the postal authorities time and effort. So the pre-cancelled stamps went straight to sorting rather than needing to be cancelled, so the process was a little quicker, particularly when there was a lot. In France, they were used from the early 1920s, and they were cancelled, as you can see, with an abbreviation of the word affranchissement and then poste. And these stamps were also used, of course, here in Algeria and Tunisia. The Bay of Algiers stamp at the bottom has a little bit of a fusion possibility. Well, it does for me quite often. The stamp on the left here is that one from that series, the Algerian stamp showing the Bay of Algiers. The one on the right, which is pretty similar, is actually a French stamp showing the centenary of Algeria. But quite often when I'm sorting my stamps, I will put one in the wrong place. These two, also from 1926, they are postage due stamps, and they are exactly the same as their French counterparts, except, of course, with the name Algeria on them. These two, the top one is from 1936, from the Landscapes and Buildings series of Gdaya Mazab. The bottom is exactly the same stamp, but it's overprinted EFM and surcharged 30 francs. Now, unlike the postage due on the previous slide, the second stamp here is not included in my simplified Stanley Gibbons catalogue because they don't class it as just a stamp now, but it's a telegram stamp for soldiers to use. And this one was issued in 1943. These three were just after the end of World War II, when there was a brief time when French stamps were overprinted with Algeria again. And here we have three types of French stamp. On the left, the so-called broken chains. In the middle, the iris type, named for the Greek god messenger. And this one was available from 1939 to 1945. And then on the right, we have one of the various Marianne stamps that France has produced. According to the French Postal Administration, there have been 16 different Marianne style stamps. This one is known as Marianne de Gandon because Gandon was the designer of this stamp, and this one was available 1945 to 1955. All three of these, though, were in Algeria in 1945. These two, back with Algeria inscribed stamps with the RF or République Française, and this one, 1956, the Oran stamp. Sorry, there's my cat getting in the way. Let's just move you out of the way. The 1956 Oran stamp on the left, and on 1957 the electrification of the Bun-Tabassa railway line on the right. Here's another potential confusion. 1960 stamp on the left from France, 1962, pretty identical, the stamp from Algeria, both showing Tlemcen Mosque, the Grand Mosque. Come on, cat, get out of the way. Right, and the one on the right is one of the first series that Algeria produced with its name, République Algérienne, on it in both French and Arabic. This was one of the first series after independence, 1963, called The Return of Peace. Still, as all of them have been so far, though, in French currency. This cover shows a stamp from 1973. It's a reissue of a 1969 series of Algerian flowers with new denominations. This one is a strelitzia, or a bird of paradise flower, and now in dinars and centimes. A full set from 1983 of silverwork jewellery, 50 cents, 1 and 2 dinars. And my most recent stamp from Algeria is this one from 1999, Folk Dances. This particular dance is the Targui. So, my name is Keith, and these are my stamps.